Okay, so yeah, Canadian National Railway. They're a huge company actually, I was surprised. They have a market cap of 32 billion and they employ 22,000 people. So a big company. They actually manage 20,000 miles of, is it miles? Yeah, miles of track, both in Canada and down the Louisiana corridor into America as well. They also manage the rolling stock as well. They've got a huge amount of rolling stock. They even have a lot of kind of, vehicles and things like that to do all the maintenance that they manage as well. So CN use FME extensively throughout the organisation. It's probably one of the largest footprints of FME I've seen in any organisation. They use it in business intelligence, facilities management, real estate, engineering, asset management, geotechnical, law, and even somehow in e-business as well. I'm not quite sure of that one, but it does touch a large proportion of their organisation, their use. So what we're going to do is look at a few of the kind of most interesting and most exciting uses of FME within their organisation. Firstly, they also have a lot of real-time data as well, so we're going to look at how they use FME server with the real-time data. The first thing we're going to look at is LiDAR. So FME does LiDAR. LiDAR has a large amount of processing and the ability to read LiDAR data into the product. It gets more powerful every year. So what they actually did is, you can see on the left here, they collected raw LiDAR data surrounding the track. So they went out, I think they used what's called a high-rise. It's kind of a vehicle covered in sensors that they push down the track with loads of sensors on it. They collect the data, and then once they have the data, what they had to do is they just want to extract the track. So you can see on the left here, there's trees, there's telegraph poles, there's building outlines. They just wanted to extract just the track. So initially they were using another product, Civil 3D, to extract the track. They had that working, they had a process going, but it was very, very slow and it wasn't scalable. It took several hours, if not days, to extract the track. So the problem was there, if someone came to them, I've got 100 miles of track, can you process it? It took them exponentially longer to process. So what they did is they built an FME process to do the work for them. They invested that time up front to build the workspace, but then once it had it running, they could pump as much data as they wanted into it, and it took a matter of minutes to run. So you can see here on the right, this is the track that's been output from the LiDAR, and then the engineers could do slope and corridor analysis on that data as well. So actually, once they got it running, they did 103 miles of track from down in Louisiana almost instantly. It took about, I think, 15-20 minutes to do the processing. So, now they can just throw LiDAR data at the FME workspace and do the processing and load the data into Oracle Spatial. The next step is to add a real-time component to it. So what they're planning on trying to do is they're going to drive the high-rise down the high rail down the track, collect the data in real time, and then use FME Server to collect the data and load the data straight into the Oracle Spatial database as point cloud data. So, then the data will be in the database in almost real time. The engineers can run the workspace to pull the track out, and they can start working on the data almost instantly. The next part is, FME does real time. So CN have a huge amount of location-based information and non-location-based information in real time coming in. So, not only do they have all the scheduling, the train reporting, they have GPS data from every carriage, I think, not just the train, but every single piece of rolling stock. They know the location. And they have all sorts of information coming in, things like, is the sensor information, is the train connected to the train in front, things like that. So they have this constant data coming in, and they use the WebSphere message broker from IBM as their complex event processor. So all this data is coming into the CEP. The thing is with WebSphere is it's not spatial. So a large proportion of that data they forward to FME Server to do the spatial analysis on the data. Let's take the GPS data from the trains coming in from all the rolling stock. So they have over 7 million points an hour coming in to FME Server. FME Server takes the GPS data and it does things like it adds value to the GPS data by joining to geofences and adding attributes onto the data. They do network analysis and things like that. And then once they've done the analysis, they then load the data into Oracle Spatial as well. So they use the LiDAR data comes in this way as well through the complex event processor. But they've seen a huge amount of value from using FME Server to process this real-time data, and 7 million points an hour is it's an easy number for us to do now with some new technology we've implemented at the workspace level. They also do several other tasks within the organisation. These are some of the highlights. So they do grid polygon cellular coverage analysis. So what this is they basically want to see if they look at their network, where on the network are there blackout zones. So probably in the Rockies, some areas in northern Canada. They want to have basically a map of the cellular coverage. So they use FME to do that. They also decommissioned SQL Server and moved that to Oracle Spatial. So, that was over 300 tables they moved very, very quickly using FME. And here are the 7 million points an hour they're pulling with the GPS. They did all the point cloud indexing, and they also built a neat tool within AutoCAD and MapGuide. And so this tool was effectively, it used FME Server in the background, but the end user didn't know it was using FME. And what it allowed them to do is import data sets into those software packages that weren't supported by the software package. So let's say they could try and import a shapefile into AutoCAD, and FME did the translation in real time and loaded it into the product. So they used FME Server to do that real-time translation as well. Okay.